Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are undertaking a truly epic deep dive, plunging into the magnificent yet utterly brutal world of 12th century England. This is an era where the fate of an entire family, whether they live or die, could be determined by the whim of a local thug in a helmet, and where the aspirations for an entire community are literally built out of stone, piece by laborious piece.
It is a sweeping story, and it's so important to start by setting the historical stage. Our sources place us squarely in what historians call the Anarchy.
Right.
It's a period of civil war and deep political breakdown, roughly beginning around 1135 and dragging on for decades. This is all about the failure of centralized governance after the death of Henry I, leading to this brutal power struggle between his daughter Empress Maud and his nephew Stephen.
And the chaos isn't just about kings and queens, is it? The sources detail the raw, terrifying reality for everyone on the ground.
Oh, absolutely.
We see a society rooted in these brutal social hierarchies. The aristocracy who have all the power, the peasantry who have nothing but their labor, and then the church, which acts as a third and, frequently competing power structure.
And what you realize instantly is how fragile life was. Fortunes, even lives, could rise or fall in the instant it takes for a sword to be drawn, or, more surprisingly, the time it takes to sign a ledger.
Or in the time it takes for a wooden roof to catastrophically burn.
Exactly.
We're using this incredibly detailed source material to synthesize the intricate conflicts driving this time. Our mission is to understand how ambition, both noble and frankly destructive, is channeled through the three contrasting figures who dominate the narrative: the dedicated, desperate builder, the intensely pragmatic monk, and the shockingly ruthless warlord.
And we are going to use four intertwined narratives as the pillars of our discussion today.
Okay.
First, we have to analyze the precarious day-to-day struggle for survival faced by the common people, focusing on Tom Builder and the extraordinary transformation of Aliena.
Second, we'll dive into the deep conflicts within the church. And it wasn't a unified force, not at all. It was a political battleground, seen through the eyes of Prior Philip, Archdeacon Walleran-Bigod, and their maneuvering around political figures like King Stephen and Empress Maud.
Third, and this is crucial, we'll spend necessary time on the relentless psychological cruelty and sheer unbridled ambition of the local aristocracy, best exemplified by William Hamley. He is the destructive force against which all creation has to push back.
And finally, the fourth pillar, the architectural revolution itself. We'll explore the groundbreaking shifts, rib vaulting, the pointed arch that were emerging in this period, promising to literally elevate the structures of society, driven by the unexpected visionary Jack. We begin, as the sources do, with a really jarring scene that immediately establishes the fragility of medieval life. We're placed in a bustling market square, where you have the typical routine activity: peasants selling eggs, buying beer, trading livestock. But that entire scene of routine commerce is overlaid with the ominous spectacle of an imminent public hanging, overseen by the sheriff's bailiff.
This juxtaposition is so intentional. It shows how instantly ordinary life can become this life and death spectacle dictated entirely by the local lord.
Yeah.
The prisoner is brought out on an ox cart, he's bound, and as he faces his execution, he starts to sing. This isn't just background noise. The singing is described in detail, a high, pure tenor voice, and the song is mournful French, communicating profound loss, even if listeners don't, know the language.
And the specific lyrics the source provides are chillingly beautiful. A lark caught in a hunter's net sang sweeter than ever, as if the falling melody might wing and net dissever. It's a moment of doomed grace, and it fixes the attention of everyone present, including a mysterious young woman.
Yes, the mysterious girl.
Right.
She is about 15, visibly pregnant, and dressed in rags, yet the crowd actively parts around her. People notice her long, dark brown hair that forms the so-called devil's peak on her forehead, suggesting ill omen or perhaps a wild, uncontrollable nature.
But the truly magnetic detail is her gaze. Her deep-set, intense eyes are of a startling golden color, so luminous and penetrating that the common folk genuinely believe she can see right into your heart.
And that detail is so critical. It's not just physical description. It speaks to the deep superstition and, well, fear embedded in medieval society.
How so?
Exactly. In a world where sin and confession are paramount, the idea of someone being able to pierce the veil of your carefully constructed social facade, to see the secrets, the petty crimes, the grudges, the lusts, is terrifying.
I see.
People avert their eyes. They're scared she will expose their inner turpitude, making her an immediate, powerful outcast simply by existing.
That fear-laden atmosphere is what Tom Builder and his family are trying to navigate. His story begins almost instantly with a catastrophic downfall, sometime around 1135 or 1136.
Oh, wait.
He's a master mason, but his job constructing a house for William Hamley, Lord Percy's son, is about to end violently.
And this scene perfectly captures William's defining characteristic: unbridled, careless arrogance backed by physical power. He nearly tramples Tom's young daughter, Martha, with his pony just for sport.
Unbelievable.
And when Tom, facing looming starvation, tries to collect the wages he is rightfully owed, William is immediately enraged that a mere worker would dare challenge him.
Tom's act of courage holding the bridle of William's horse is born not of bravery, but of sheer agonizing desperation.
Yes.
He knows he risks summary execution, but he is fundamentally driven by the need to feed his family. He's willing to risk his head for that paycheck.
And of course, William dismisses him without paying a single penny. The catastrophe that follows is immediate. Tom's family, Agnes, Alfred, Martha, are forced to march into the wild, carrying their few possessions. But the true symbolic economic disaster is the loss of the fat pig.
This detail is so often glossed over, but it's critical for understanding the material reality of their survival. The pig was worth 60 pence.
Right.
That sounds like a small sum to us, but let's look at what 60 pence represented in a medieval economy.
60 pence was massive. That pig wasn't just a meal, it was a winter survival package.
Uh-huh.
It provided meat, yes, but also lard for cooking, and its hide could be cured and turned into critical materials like leather for shoes, harnesses, or purses. Its loss, combined with Tom being stiffed on his wages, means they have no buffer against the encroaching winter. The search for work becomes a matter of days, not weeks.
That search leads them into the forest, where they encounter people who have opted out entirely. Ellen and her son Jack, who are living as outlaws.
And Ellen is, of course, the mysterious golden-eyed girl from the hanging.
Oh, right.
And she reveals her crime was utterly trivial in the grand scheme of violence.
Yeah.
She simply cursed a priest.
Her choice to live outside the walls offers a profound social critique.
It does. She and Jack survive frugally on the forest's bounty. Her philosophy is striking. She believes that if only there were no kings and lords and bishops and sheriffs, if the entire oppressive hierarchy collapsed, everyone could be perfectly happy and self-sufficient.
She represents a total radical rejection of the system that Tom is desperately trying to stay inside of.
Precisely. But Tom can't be an outlaw. He is a builder, a creator. He needs stone, mortar, and commissions. Their fruitless search becomes a desperate, hungry march across southern England. Salisbury, Shaftesbury, Sherborne, Bristol, Oxford. But they are met with the same answer everywhere: no work here.
The consequences are just, inevitable, and tragic. After walking only 3 more miles, Agnes collapses. The moment is heartbreaking. She gives birth to a healthy baby boy, Jonathan, but dies instantly afterward from unstoppable blood loss.
And the sheer overwhelming numbness that settles over Tom is palpable.
And his immediate reaction is one of absolute cold necessity, which tells you everything about the priorities of survival.
It really does.
His first thought isn't about sorrow, but pure practicality. What do I do first? The answer is brutal. Dig a deep grave right now to keep the wolves off and preserve her bones until the day of judgment.
That necessity extends to the infant. The newborn is crying and desperately needs nourishment. In a moment that seals the baby's fate, Tom shifts the infant toward Agnes's still full breast for milk, ensuring its immediate survival, but also creating the moment of separation.
He abandons the child at the grave.
An act of utter despair, and perhaps in his mind the only way to give the child a better chance. That baby is later found by the monks and adopted, permanently severing him from his birth family. This entire journey from the market gallows to the lonely forest grave is a horrifying portrait of life on the margins during the Anarchy.
The physical anarchy that claimed Agnes's life is mirrored by the spiritual and political anarchy in the church. So now we shift our focus to Prior Philip, the man who will become Tom's ultimate, though often demanding, patron. Philip seems like a bastion of spiritual purity, yet the sources reveal that his absolute commitment to the church was forged in immense personal trauma.
This is where we see the origins of his rigidity. Philip witnessed the savage murders of both his parents, carried out by men suffering from battle-induced bloodlust. The sources are unrelenting in their detail, describing the killers as literally scared out of their wits, by the simple act of survival, which paradoxically made them brutal killers.
The specific details of that violence are important because they are so visceral.
They are.
Philip saw his mother struck down, fixed to the stone floor by a sword plunged through her chest. It's an image of violation and absolute finality that would haunt anyone.
And the detail regarding his father is even more agonizing. Philip watched his father collapse over an attacker's sword, spewing out a huge gout of blood. When the attacker twisted the blade, his father fell, and Philip was fixated on the horrifying sight of ugly tubes and organs that were falling out of his open abdomen.
It's not the sanitized violence of medieval tapestry. It is the messy, horrifying reality of war and chaos.
Exactly.
So you have to wonder, does witnessing that level of physical, senseless destruction push Philip toward an absolute, unwavering belief in the structure and sanctity of the church?
I think it has to. It's almost a psychological defense mechanism. The world outside is chaotic and visceral. The church must be rigid and ordered.
Right.
Absolutely. After 17 years as a humble monk, he faces a turning point when his brother Francis departs. Philip realizes his purpose can't be mere spiritual maintenance. He must act to increase God's kingdom. He sees himself as a servant in the parable of the talents. He cannot bury his talent. He must multiply it.
This is the moment a quiet piety transforms into formidable, mission-driven ambition.
It is. And that ambition immediately pulls him into the treacherous political landscape. His own brother, Francis, reveals a crucial conspiracy. Robert of Gloucester and Earl Bartholomew, Aliena's father, are plotting a high-stakes rebellion against the current King Stephen.
And Philip's choice here is defining, and you could argue ethically fraught.
Very much so. His ultimate loyalty is to the church as an institution, which had already backed Stephen. He quickly grasps that a successful rebellion by Gloucester and Bartholomew would plunge the church's financial and political standing into deeper chaos.
So he takes the political risk. He reports the conspiracy to Archdeacon Walleran Bigod,
A man who is already described as thin, black-clad, menacingly ambitious, and fundamentally unscrupulous.
Right.
Philip is trading sensitive, politically explosive information for future influence. He uses Walleran to secure the church's position, demonstrating his willingness to maneuver in the halls of power from the very start.
That maneuvering soon lands him the position of Prior of Kingsbridge. He arrives, however, not to a center of piety, but a monument to neglect and chaos.
It's a complete mess.
A total mess. He inherits a priory drowning in debt and suffering from scandalous indiscipline. He finds monks actively breaking their vows, feasting on roasting meat instead of simple salt fish, and the general management is terrible. Even the stables are dirty, causing debilitating hoof rot in the valuable horses.
Philip immediately imposes his will, enforcing strict obedience. But the real structural problem, the reason Kingsbridge was failing, was its deeply flawed financial system, rooted in monastic tradition.
Okay, let's break down this piece of medieval monastic economics for the listener because it's a real deep dive nugget.
Yeah.
The priory's wealth, its land, its tithes, its income, was not centrally managed. It was divided up among various officials called obedientaries. The sacrist was responsible for the chapel, the cellarer for provisions, the novice master for the students, and so on.
This is the critical flaw. Each obedientary managed their own slice of the pie for their own functional expenses. But as Cuthbert, one of the older, wiser monks, explains, these men simply leased the land to the highest bidder without any supervision, because they were more interested in short-term personal gain than long-term agricultural health.
This led to exhausted soil, theft, crops being skimmed off, and massive corruption. The priory sank deeper and deeper into debt because its assets were mismanaged for the sake of the monks' comfort and complacency.
Exactly. Philip's reform, then, is revolutionary. It's not just an accounting audit, it's a power struggle. He must centralize control, often fighting the inertia and vested interests of his own monks to ensure the wealth serves God's greater glory, not just the sacrist's new shoes.
But the true catalyst for Philip's ambition and Tom's salvation is a cataclysmic disaster. The cathedral burns down.
The sources suggest it was an accident, perhaps a stray spark combined with an updraft igniting old, pitch-coated roof timbers near the crossing.
And it progressed with terrifying speed because of that construction.
It did. The pitch was meant to protect the wood, but it made the roof a massive torch. Philip saw the ceiling blazing furiously, looking like the underside of hell. He realized instantly that the scale of the disaster was too great for any human intervention.
Yet, in the face of total physical destruction, Philip shows absolute clarity of purpose. He leads the monks not to fight the fire, but to save the spiritual and financial core. He and Remigius carry out St. Adolphus's coffin and ensure the iron-bound treasury chest is secured. He focuses on assets that transcend the structure.
The physical structure is lost, but the spiritual and financial authority remains.
And here is the profound irony. While Philip surveys the smoking ruins, seeing an immense, terrifying challenge, Tom Builder, wandering nearby with his starving, demoralized family, sees a beacon of hope and feels a wave of shameless, happy optimism.
The collapse of the old church literally becomes the salvation of the builder.
Yes.
Tom is immediately hired to clear the rubble, securing the job he desperately needed.
Yeah.
Crucially, he ensures the stones, even the still warm ones, are salvaged, ready to be reused for the foundations and rubble core of the future walls. The Anarchy, which almost killed him, now provides him with the opportunity of a lifetime.
As Philip and Tom are focused on construction, we have to turn our attention back to the destructive forces of the Anarchy, embodied by William Hamley.
Right.
William is not just violent, he uses cruelty as a cold, calculating strategy.
His torture of Gilbert, one of Earl Bartholomew's messengers, is a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
William's not torturing him simply for sadistic pleasure, although he clearly enjoys it immensely.
No, he's building a fire beneath Gilbert's suspended feet to extract highly valuable military intelligence. This information is a commodity of war.
And he gets what he wants. Bartholomew has 50 knights mustered at Sherborne. William uses this intel for a perfectly executed raid on Earl's castle. This wasn't a frontal siege, it was sophisticated.
How so?
They chose the moment of morning mass, when the attention of the garrison was spiritually focused elsewhere, and chiseled out the hinges of the gates, allowing them to seize the castle and capture Earl Bartholomew.
This instantly transfers the earldom to William's father, Percy, making William the effective local lord of Shearing.
And the political consequences of this one violent act ripple throughout the entire region, plunging the world of Aliena and Richard into immediate chaos.
Speaking of Aliena, William's obsession with her predates this coup, and the sources dive deep into the psychology of his lust. He finds her newly vulnerable state even more desirable now that her high status has been challenged.
It's all about power and degradation. He obsessively spies on her. The sources vividly recall his memory of watching her bathe at the well, her deep, proud breasts, and the surprisingly big bush of dark curly hair.
So this isn't just attraction.
No, it's the thrill of watching someone powerful perform private acts, which grants him a delicious power over her even before the physical assault.
That psychological degradation culminates in the terrible final act of violence.
Yes. William and his men murder the steward Matthew and brutally rape Aliena in the presence of her terrified brother Richard before leaving them completely destitute and homeless.
But Aliena's response is one of immediate, steel-hard transformation. She is stripped of everything, homeless, naked beneath a single cloak, scarred, but she does not break.
No, she swears a solemn, life-defining oath to her captured father. She will protect Richard until he can claim his rightful title as the Earl. This oath becomes her single, unbreakable motivation, overriding all personal desire.
Her path to survival is brutally pragmatic. Early on, she kills an outlaw with a knife, and in a moment of shocking necessity, forces her gentle brother Richard to finish the job, making him wield his sword to get some practice and toughen him up.
She knows the world demands a man, not a boy, if they are to survive the anarchy.
They attempt to seek traditional work in Winchester, the major city, but Aliena faces an immediate class barrier.
Yeah, Goldsmith tells her candidly that he won't hire her because highborn people make terrible servants.
What's his reasoning?
He explains that they're disobedient, resentful, thoughtless, touchy, and because they have never truly worked hard, they constantly believe they're doing more than is actually required. Her nobility is a liability.
So she realizes she cannot succeed through service. She must succeed through commerce. She uses her remaining resources to become a wool merchant. Now, this is a key thematic connection. How did the anarchy actually enable her rise?
Well, the anarchy, as politically destructive as it was, created an economic vacuum. The traditional feudal structures were weakened. Feudal lords like William often focused on warring rather than governing, meaning centralized taxes and tolls were hard to enforce. England's main export was wool, and Aliena, seizing this opportunity, starts trading, becoming so successful that she eventually is described as the richest person in Kingsbridge.
This wealth gives her autonomy outside the normal patriarchal power structures of the era.
And she uses this economic power immediately to support Philip and the cathedral. She funds the construction by buying Philip's future wool crops a year in advance, providing the steady stream of capital needed for the immense project.
So the merchant class, born out of the chaos, is now literally paying for God's glory.
Exactly. Yet, her single-minded focus on the oath leads her to a terrible bargain. The failed, pragmatic marriage to Alfred, Tom Builder's son.
Alfred offers a critical resource, the necessary military backing for Richard's career, a war horse, weapons, and a squire.
She marries Alfred solely for Richard's future.
And she does this after confessing her lasting love for Jack, essentially walking into her own emotional prison. The wedding night is, predictably, a disaster.
A complete disaster. Alfred, perhaps intimidated by her status or repulsed by her obvious lack of desire, is impotent.
He blames her, complaining that she is lifeless. It puts me off, like feeling up a corpse. He refuses to share the bed and makes her sleep on the floor.
This emotional and physical failure is critical because it ensures the marriage is never completed in the eyes of the church.
This technicality later becomes her salvation. Aliena applies for an annulment based on the lack of consummation. She relies on the specific legal interpretation of the great scholar Gratian.
Right, who maintain that while mutual consent constitutes the marriage, physical union completes or perfects it. Without consummation, the marriage can be dissolved.
It is in this limbo that Jack returns. The years of suppressed passion erupt in a reckless revelation as they make love. But immediately afterward, Aliena pulls back, paralyzed by her self-imposed duty.
She prioritizes her oath above her own happiness, describing her love for Jack as sounding like a funeral bell compared to the weight of her promise to her dead father. The oath is a noble act, but also a self-imposed psychological cage.
So let's return to creation. Tom Builder, now the master mason, is focused on the immediate, practical necessities of rebuilding the cathedral. His initial design is ruthlessly pragmatic, dictated entirely by the meager money Philip can scrape together.
Tom lays out his plans using a standardized pole system for measurement. The new cathedral would be 12 poles long and 6 poles high. This is pure efficiency.
So what's the logic there?
By using standardized measurements, he can reuse the falsework, the massive, expensive, temporary wooden supports for the arches, and minimize the number of different stone templates needed. It's cost-saving and logical construction built on scarcity.
However, Tom's initial vision is standard and heavy. Thick walls, round, Romanesque arches, and a flat timber ceiling. It's the safe, cheap option.
But Philip, driven by his ambition to offer God the best possible work, challenges Tom, demanding something revolutionary. He forces Tom to elevate his ambition from necessity to artistry.
But the threat isn't just internal. William Hamley, needing cash to raise his army during the Anarchy, attempts to seize Kingsbridge's vital stone quarry.
And Philip counters this aggression with brilliant managerial strategy.
This is a superb example of economic warfare. Philip doesn't fight William with swords. He hires the entire Hamley quarry staff, including the experienced master quarryman, Otto Blackface.
He pays standard rates, 2 pence a day for skilled craftsmen, to immediately start building a massive stone stockpile.
This is a double blow.
A huge one. It secures Philip's continuity of supply, ensuring the construction can continue even if William tries to shut down the quarry, and it denies William the valuable manpower he needs to raise his military force.
He uses payroll as a strategic weapon.
Exactly, demonstrating that financial savvy can overcome brute force.
Tom lays the necessary practical groundwork, but the true architectural leap forward is brought by Jack. After being expelled from Kingsbridge, blamed for the lodge fire and conflict with Alfred, Jack begins a grand, formative journey across Europe.
Yeah, he's initially searching for his father, but eventually finds architectural enlightenment.
His travels through France and Spain are an intensive, on-the-job education. The pivotal discovery occurs in Normandy, specifically in the abbeys of Jumièges and Lassay, where he encounters the cutting edge of building technology.
Right, he discovers rib vaulting.
Okay, let's get technical for a moment because this is essential. What is that?
Well, traditional Romanesque vaults were immensely thick, heavy masses of stone. Jack realizes that these vaults can be replaced by thin stone sections supported by strong ribs springing from the columns.
So it's like a skeleton.
That's the key innovation. The ribs are built first, acting as a permanent framework. They carry the load and simplify the construction process immensely, as the inferior sections between the ribs are lighter and require less complicated wooden centering. This makes the whole structure lighter and faster to build.
He also discovers the pointed arch. The traditional Romanesque round arch tends to push outward, what's called lateral thrust severely, forcing builders to use massive, thick walls to resist that pressure.
But the pointed arch is mathematically superior. Because the curve is sharper, it directs the lateral thrust far more vertically down the supporting columns.
So the walls don't need to be as thick.
Exactly. This fundamental shift in engineering allows structures to reach far greater heights than ever before. Exactly what Philip demanded of Tom.
Yeah.
The best possible work.
The structural shift leads directly to an aesthetic revolution, the new French Gothic style.
It does. Jack realizes that because the walls are thinner and the arch is stronger, he can incorporate massive windows and colored glass. He notes that this transforms the church interior from the characteristic Romanesque gloom and darkness into a place of sunshine and air.
It's an architectural shift that elevates the spirit as well as the ceiling.
Jack returns to Kingsbridge, bringing this revolutionary knowledge and, quite literally, a stage prop, the Weeping Madonna statue.
He uses the statue and a staged, faked miracle, a highly cynical but effective move, to rally the deeply superstitious people.
This shows his mastery of the moment. Philip notes that Jack is a boy who doesn't do what he's expected to. Jack presents his revolutionary plans, the tallest nave in England, utilizing the pointed arches and vast windows he had discovered.
And he's appointed master builder.
Immediately, elevating him from outlaw's son to the director of England's grandest construction project.
But the dream is constantly under threat. Lauren Bigod and Regan Hamley relentlessly attempt to undermine Philip politically, questioning the legitimacy of his market license and mocking Tom and Jack as theological builders who prioritize height over stability.
And Philip has to fight back with every legal and financial maneuver he possesses. He appeals to Empress Maud for crucial funding and rights, leveraging the fluid political situation. He even has to manage the political fallout of King Stephen's temporary capture, using Maud's brief empowerment to secure his own position. It's a constant, high-stakes game of legal chess.
The ultimate test of Kingsbridge's resilience comes when William Hamley, furious that the successful Kingsbridge Fleece Fair is undercutting the extortionate fees at his own shiring fair, launches a devastating retaliatory attack.
He burns the town and charges the priory close. The town is paralyzed, realizing everything they have built could be wiped out in a single day.
Jack proposes a quick fix that is sheer, brilliant improvisation, building temporary town walls around Kingsbridge in a single day.
And how do they do that? They rely on the mass volunteer labor of the Whitsunday congregation, a time when the entire population is already gathered.
They build quickly, using rough, improvised materials, relying on manpower rather than engineering. Philip even waters down the beer to keep the workers somewhat sober in the summer heat.
This defense is a triumph by deception.
William is fooled entirely by the appearance of a unified, formidable structure, not realizing that the mortar is still so fresh that the wall could literally be pulled down by hand in places. He attacks the easier earth ramparts instead of the easily collapsed stone structure.
And this is the moment Aliena's oath is functionally fulfilled. Richard, now a competent soldier thanks to the resources Aliena secured via Alfred and the townspeople, used slings and stones effectively against the charging horsemen. William's own horse is crippled by an axe and he is forced into a humiliating retreat.
The physical defense of the town secures its economic independence.
Yes, and with the town secured, and Richard now focused fully on the military career that the failed marriage funded, Jack and Aliena finally commit. They make love after the battle, and Aliena gives birth to their son Jonathan, who is born with Jack's distinctive red hair.
But here we see the final instance of Philip's necessary rigidity. Even in triumph, Philip confronts Jack over living in adultery, as Aliena is still legally married to Alfred until the annulment is formalized.
Philip cannot compromise the church's doctrine, even for his greatest builder.
He tells Jack he cannot have him as a builder while he is living in sin, forcing Jack to leave temporarily until Aliena can secure the annulment, which he immediately pursues, using Gratian's legal interpretation of non-consummation to finally complete the dissolution and secure their future. When we look back at this incredible sweep of events, the central tension that drives the narrative is just undeniable. It's the collision between ruthless temporal power embodied by the destructive, purely selfish ambition of William Hamley
And the unwavering, often morally complicated, spiritual and creative ambition of Philip, Tom, and Jack.
Yeah.
The fact that Kingsbridge Cathedral was even completed is a testament to resilience and innovation sustained by collective effort. It wasn't funded by the king or a central treasury. It was sustained by Tom's physical need for survival, Philip's genius for institutional and financial reform, Aliena's powerful emerging wool trade,
And the sheer technological leap provided by Jack, who brought the revolutionary French Gothic technology to England.
Right.
It's a fascinating paradox that the 12th century, historically defined by political chaos of the period of the Anarchy, was simultaneously a hotbed for unprecedented social mobility and technological advancement.
It really was.
I mean, think of Aliena, the merchant daughter of an earl, or Jack the outlaw's son, rising to become the master builder of the tallest nave in the country. The failure of the old system created opportunities for the ambitious and the technologically savvy outside traditional feudal control.
And that technology rib vaulting, the pointed arch, changed the face of European architecture forever, replacing heavy Romanesque structures with spaces of sunshine and air. The era proved that the highest ideals, the spiritual ambition to build a cathedral, often required the most earthbound materials. Legal maneuvering, relentless commercial acumen, and as we've seen, a good dose of deception and political compromise.
Which leaves us with a provocative final thought, one that echoes throughout the entire narrative. We know Philip was manipulated into power by Walleran, that Jack used a faked miracle and had ties to arson to secure his role, and that the Hamleys only finally backed off when they were physically repelled by a quick, rough wall and a highly effective bluff. When pursuing something truly monumental, something that transcends your own lifespan and fundamentally changes the world for the better, what level of necessary moral compromise must be accepted to ensure its survival and its ultimate glory? Something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.